Oh my gosh. Hello, hello, hello. Dijana here from Nova Holistic podcast. We are today recording the episode 14.5. I might share with you what the 0.5 is about one day, but I have a really wonderful guest on here with me today. His name is Michal Stawicki, and he has a business by an extraordinary name. I really love the name of the business, Expand Beyond Yourself. Let me introduce you and welcome Michal to our podcast and this conversation. Hello, how are
Hello,
you?
Diana. I'm fine. Thank you for
Hi.
having me on your podcast.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I so love the name of your business, actually. Tell me uh, about how you came about, how this name came about.
Well, I'm a Catholic, and I found this expression in one of the papers from the Second Vatican Council, uh,
Uh-huh.
and it talks about, it's in the spiritual context, a good context.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and it tells that we cannot become fully who we should be if we do not expand beyond ourselves. And in Christian faith, it makes a lot of sense because God is the initiator of the contact, and like the whole deal is about, in the end, becoming like Him. So you definitely need to expand a bit to to the divine level. Uh, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's about also this realm as well. This my experience, life experience, that I needed to grow to really fit into new roles, new careers, and maybe not get rid of all traumas, but build on them. Uh, and I think that's like a universal formula for life. Expand beyond
Mm-hmm.
yourself, grow, and in this Maslow pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
like the self fulfillment is at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they also saying that he like invented it. It wasn't really tested. It's a nice theoretical model, but in the end, what I believe is that the self actualization is a part of experience of a human being. You cannot be fully human if you do not experience that.
Yes, yeah. I I have like about a million questions coming to mind about everything you just said. But before we get into all the different questions, because this is such an extraordinary way to begin this conversation, and I'm really grateful for you to have the strength and the courage and your inner. It's like you wear your soul. Oh gosh, what happened? Oh, I just lost Michal. Oh no. Oh my goodness, where are you?
Sorry.
There you are. That's what happens in a live stream. Yay. I love it. And um can I just say that I kind of feel that this is what just happened, the momentary disconnection and not planning for this and kind of things not going to script, so to speak, is like perfect. It is exactly the human experience. I don't think it's meant to be perfect. It's not meant to be scripted. It's meant to be human.
Experienced.
It's meant to be in the moment and experienced. So, are you okay? Everything okay at your end? Are we good with the stream?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So, going back to what I was saying, I just wanted to extend my gratitude to you for, having the courage to go straight to the deep parts of you, to straight to the point, straight into who you are without, the mask, without massaging the periphery and the borders and the limitations. I'm really grateful for that. I appreciate that. And before we explore, a few of those things that you offered to us initially, I wanted to ask you to please introduce yourself maybe a little bit deeper as well, and just let us know who you are, where you are, what is your actual business, and then we'll unpack the conversation a little bit more.
All right. So I'm Michal Stawicki. I live in Poland, Europe. Right now, I have like three main streams of income. One is book advertising business. Other is coaching, mostly business coaching, and I have 19 books on personal development published, and royalties is also another stream of income. I'm a Christian husband. We've been married for over 22 years, and we have three kids. The youngest is 16. The eldest is
Wow.
in the college now.
Mhm.
Um, and 10 years ago, I was just an IT guy in the corporate world, and that was my only source of income. And I didn't feel good there. Like the job was okay, the pay was good, but I just feel empty there. I felt empty, and I I felt also I'm wasting my potential there. But on the other hand, my self-esteem was so low that I didn't even try to succeed at anything. And
Mm.
then in August 2012, I read the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And the message of the book is success is just a few simple disciplines repeated over time, and which was a big discovery for me because I thought that success is something grand. So that's why I didn't even try to achieve it. But few simple things, yeah, maybe I could do that. So I started uh, trying that way of living, and then it was really a mindset shift that okay, those are small things. I will fail at small things and not at big ones. The failure will not be crippling. And I started dozens of new habits, and dive deep into personal development, wrote my personal mission statement, and in that process discovered, yes, that I want to be a put me on the path of writing. And in May 2013, I published my first book,
Wow.
and the rest is history.
Okay. And did you write in Polish?
In English.
In English? Wow. Okay. All right. Let me say congratulations for your achievement. The last decade must be enormous for you and for your family. Like it must have just been such an extraordinary journey. And you must, I mean, yeah. I don't imagine it would have been easy, but congratulations, massive achievement, really super. Yeah. If you don't mind, here's the statement that you made that got the biggest reaction from me inside my body. The biggest response was when you said that you were in a job that you didn't like, but then you said you were wasting your potential and you didn't even try. And I'm like immediately thinking, if you can say that you were wasting your potential, on some level, you must have known that your potential was bigger than what was happening for you. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I think that's fascinating. How did you know
Yeah, that's
that you
really
had more potential?
that's really hard to explain. That
Can
was
you try, please? Because I
that
think
was
it
a
might be important for the
sensation, a
audience.
feeling
Uh-huh.
more than any conscious reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and because we are wired that way, yeah, we have this negativity bias, so we
Mm-hmm.
easily notice what's wrong, and it's not so easy to notice what's going right. So I was keenly aware of what was wrong, which was I was miserable in my day job. That I was like could see the symptoms, but not really the deep reason what's going on. So symptoms like me playing computer games too much, watching too much TV, escaping into fiction worlds in books.
Right.
So this I could, and I think most of us can, like, if you binge watch a Netflix show, you spend the whole day, and then you're like, come on, it wasn't so good. I wasted my time. What I'm doing with my life, yeah. So this is really to notice, but to notice that to know, okay, what's the potential, why I'm feeling that I can offer more and do more. Uh, it's not so easy. I'm like my biggest, I would say, clue in that regard is that I've been in a church community since I was 17, and I spend a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time just with the Bible, and the
Mm-hmm.
Bible is full of this message that you are loved, you are full of potential, and you can do amazing things, and so on. And if people told that to me, I was like, oh, yeah, maybe, or I might. But if God tells me that, I'm like, okay, well, you created the universe, so you know better. Like, I actually believed that message, despite the fact I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't believe in myself. Yeah, so
That's so
that's my
interesting right
answer.
there. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting right there. And the reason why I sort of, just within the context of sort of also what I do for a living. I mean, you ultimately are doing coaching and you have those different streams of income, and you write about personal development, and you have your spirituality through your religion that you refer to a lot, and it's your guiding light. So, also through the work that I do, I find that there really isn't just one way to inspire yourself or to see yourself as a reflection of greatness or a reflection of potential. That comes from so many different things, like so many different things. And every time I talk to somebody, there's always a beautiful flavor, something really special about their journey. So there are universal themes, but there's something special always, that's unique about each person. And I love how, I mean, what I'm hearing is that You know, even if you couldn't quite believe in yourself, your faith in God was a guiding light to some extent, that statement about your truest potential or your true potential must be true on some level, even if you can't see it.
Yes.
And I really love that. I really love that so much.
There is like Hal Elrod's other book, which I don't remember the title, but it was about how to achieve success. What's the like common things, and one of them was belief. And often people say, especially those, A types, highly driven, that you must believe in yourself. And I found it to be not true, because I'm still not believing myself in
Yeah,
myself.
right.
But you need to believe in something. That's really the something greater. Okay, if it's you, then it's you, and you can believe in yourself and take action. But something, you need to believe in something to take action. And from the stories I studied, it's like belief in higher cause, belief in yourself, or which is really interesting, belief of other people in you. Who was that? I don't remember. One of personal development gurus who was like, I totally didn't believe in myself, but my mentor said that I can do it, so I believed in his belief in me, and that's why he took action. And his transformation was really amazing. Like 1 year he was making, that was back in 50s, I guess, $4,000 a year. The next year it was 100,000. So huge transformation just based on the belief of his mentor into him.
Gosh, isn't that really amazing? I mean, that's true because, you know, for me personally, I don't necessarily come from a family that gave too much attention to spreading the good word, like as in they weren't obviously encouraging. You know, they didn't say, oh, Dijana, go and do, you can do anything you want. Like nobody ever said that to me, like ever, right? But the people that I remember, my teacher in primary school, my sport teacher, who was then also my coach, my first coach, was the one that really believed that I had the talent to play sport, and then which that then led me to playing sport professionally, for example, right? So, and then even like more recently, you're right, because it's sometimes it's those mentors are important people in our life, even if they're there for 5 minutes, that can be the quantum leap forward, you know, like the next step or the next 10 steps forward.
Right.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah. And you're also right. I mean, when you say that mostly we are programmed neurologically because of our survival mechanism to notice the negative things first, and then assess the good stuff. So remembering that light, divine light, unconditional encouragement or unconditional love, if you will, can literally come from anywhere. Because the truth is that there is so much of it in the world, actually, right?
Right.
So I really love that. Okay, what an awesome start of the conversation. And see, already it's 20 minutes and I don't even know where the 20 minutes is gone. It's crazy. Love it. Okay, so here's the other thing that I'm really fascinated by, Michal. You're in Poland, and what you describe, what you have achieved over the last decade, are things that I know that are mostly, like in my world, they're mostly achieved, like those, strong entrepreneurial successes, by individuals. In my world, are most commonly observed, like in the more Western world. This is not to say anything other than I don't hear about a lot of Polish people in Poland having that kind of success, and that sort of a deep journey of self-awareness and personal development, especially not when it comes to men. I'm sorry to say, I don't mean, I'm not judging or anything like that, but I sort of look at my dad. He's so old school Eastern European. I mean, I think, I think you and I have talked about this. I actually don't remember, but
Yes,
yeah, we
we
have.
did.
Yeah. I come from former Yugoslavia. I was born and raised in a little town on the border of Hungary and Yugoslavia. That's, so the Eastern Europe traditions of, of patriarchy are really strongly ingrained, right? And so when I hear your story, it's such a beautiful. My instinct, my intuition is telling me that you probably broke maybe some generational. I don't know, maybe what was it like for you to break out on your own and do these new things?
Yeah, you are right about that. Maybe not generational, but cultural.
Cultural. Mhm.
In Poland still lives the myth that get a day job, finish, graduate from the university, get a day job, stick to it. Yeah, that's safe. That's the way to go. And I just, having experienced that path, I didn't buy it. Like I thought it wasn't for me. It wasn't for
Yeah,
me.
right. Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a numbers guy. It helps me a lot with my book advertising business,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and I just, as kind of my hobby was getting to know about salaries level and so on. So I just extrapolated my budget till the retirement. I was like, oh yeah, that's really just a peanuts, and so I will be basically poor as an old guy. So how to make more money, and then what's available on the market? And the conclusion was I need to start my own company, my own business, because the only alternative 10 years ago it was to become a manager, some kind of,
Yeah.
they are paid enough to make this kind of money I wanted. But then I didn't want to be a manager in the corporate world. Like that's madness quadruplet. You not only are responsible for people who are not willing really to work there, but also you need to report to your superiors. You need to play the game. You need to adjust to the politics. No, it wasn't for me. That's for sure. Yeah, so that was one thing. And yes, you are right. Like, first of all, like I had some entrepreneurship examples in the immediate family, but they weren't very encouraging. My father, he had a solo business. He's an electrician, but like he could stay afloat for a decade, but his business debt was just accumulating and accumulating. In the end, he emigrated to Ireland to get a day job to pay off all the debt. I
Oh,
have
okay.
an uncle who is pretty successful. He has company in, I don't know, but I guess it's over 30 people now, and he started it right after the fall of communism, and it's still going. So it's a testimonial in itself. But
Wow.
it's like, brick and mortar business,
Mm-hmm.
normal stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I totally work in the online space. Like I have a few customers here and there, face-to-face coaches, or someone who met me at the conference and want to collaborate. But 99% of all I've done in the last 10 years was online. And that's so wired, yeah? So you are just sitting at your home and making money. What's this is about? I even get it from my accountant. Michal, I don't really understand your business. Yeah, because most of her customers are people who are doing something physical or something in the immediate vicinity with businesses in Poland or people in Poland. And I had maybe 3 Polish customers so far and hundreds of international ones.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes with some things we just have to pave the way so that we make it easier for others to do it, right?
Yeah, and you asked me how that went. Really, now when I look back, it's because right now I'm, for example, in the middle of a busy period, a lot of new projects, and I stole money from taxes account to pay my people. So, and I feel like, oh, it's not so good. Oh, some frustration creeps in and so on. But for the first 2 years, there was almost no money, and I worked like crazy. I had a full-time job, and then I worked on the commute to work, back from work, late in the evening, early in the morning. And like it was crazy. Yet I still had almost zero doubts about what I'm doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
why? Maybe because I did this deep job at the beginning when I was creating my personal mission statement. Maybe because I was fully convinced that, okay, the standard corporate path is not for me. Or maybe it was just, divine inspiration. And so I had the persistence, not really from me, to keep going despite, like, I got the first check after more than a year since I started changing my life, and it was for 11 euro. So come on. Then the next
Oh my
check
God.
was when it was, I think, in January, so 2 months later, and it was like 30 or 40 euro. So, so it wasn't like my persistence wasn't based on my results. That's for sure. I trusted the process. Yeah, I think that's the key. I trusted the process because I was building good habits and I was seeing the results of them in other areas of my life. For example, I adopted a habit of speed reading, like training speed reading, and in the month I doubled my reading speed. So I was like, "Wow, it's working!" And it was just 10 minutes a day. That's all.
Mm.
And I lost some weight. I kept then my weight in the range I wanted it to be. And so I changed my eating habits, my fitness habits, and I observed the results. And so I trusted the process that even in the areas where I had zero belief, like the thought of starting my own business and like being my own boss was so foreign to me, like, and so impossible, like flapping my arms and flying to the moon. Like, it just won't happen, yeah. But
Yeah.
and seriously, for the, like, other than writing, for the first 4 years, oh no, I started coaching earlier, but a couple of years at least, I did nothing but growing myself, because I believed in what Jim Rohn said, which was, your income seldom exceeds your your personal growth. So I turned it around and I invested in my personal growth, hoping that my income will catch up.
Wow, I love that. Okay. Again, like about a million questions as you're talking. Um, I want to ask you about what you just said in relation to, well, actually, let me just check in very quickly just while we're on this. Has it paid off? Invest in your personal development and hoping the money will catch up. Has it paid
Absolutely.
off? Okay. So, audience, invest in your personal development. It's worth it. Seriously. Because it's, you've probably heard as well. There is a, or I have certainly heard this enough. There is a, well, I sort of call it a faulty neural wiring around investing into yourself is on some level selfish. And so it's like, you can pay insurance for your entire life, but you're not willing to invest into yourself. Like whether it's self-care, personal development, all of those, holistic things. Anyway, so I'm glad that you've had your return on investment. So congratulations. I happen to believe the same, very much return on investment, and have been learning and applying exactly what you're talking about. I find it really interesting that, at the end of the day, I haven't found any magical formula on how to balance being a single mum and being a small business owner and a counsellor and, all of these things, paying all the bills and having an income and staying healthy so that I can be there for my son. And I haven't found any magical formula either. I mean, I tried for years thinking I must have been doing something wrong. And then it dawned on me, well, how about I just have some really healthy, grounded little steps that I do and repeat all the time, that I'm comfortable with, I'm confident in, and then you add one thing to another little thing and another little thing. And I was having these little wins every day or every week, and then soon they became, just a normal part of, and I found that to be so reassuring, reliable, helpful. And so for me, I'm really creative. And so what I find is that if I can have those foundational habits sorted and operating in a nice, organized, harmonious, balanced way, then I can allow my soul to just be free and explore and be creative. And I don't have to worry about, losing my shit or forgetting a bill or not having money to pay a bill or whatever.
Yeah. Trusting the process. I really think that habits compounds, and this the the law of nature, like gravity. Okay, gravity keeps you glued to the ground, and your habits are compounding, period. It's how the universe is working. And the point of the slight edge was they are always working, and they are working for you or against you. Because if you have bad habits, they also compound,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that may be a disaster. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but decade down the road, and you waking up and you are wasting your potential seriously, like indulging on this
Yeah.
uh, uh, binge watching in Netflix, or you know, worse things like alcohol or drugs or medicines which numb your mind and so on. So I really bought this conception of the universe that it's always working. So it's up to you to get on the right side of the equation. Um, and yes, you are so right. I found it true in every single aspect of my life, because I tried even in spirituality to employ small daily habits. So I have like a few spiritual activities, studying the Bible, reading the books written by saints. So those folks know much more about God than any theoretical treatise. They live that, and they live their works. Uh, and I was doing those things for 10 minutes a day. And it's hard really to measure yourself in that realm. But I have people who have known me for decades, and they are saying, okay, Michal, you've changed it. You grow, you progressed. So I'm firmly convinced that this path of mm, small things which are repeated, consistency, uh, this is just the law of the universe, and employ it for your advantage instead of mm, fighting against it with your bad habits.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I really love that. So, the other thing that I wanted to, so if I may, I want to ask you about your books, about you being an author, because it's fascinating to me that you speak of, I mean, you've highlighted that you're like a numbers man, which is quite left-brained, of course. It's quite logical and analytical, right? But books writing is a creative process, which is much more right-brained. And so tell me about, how do you reconcile, how do you find a middle ground between the creative process and your analytical brain?
Well, when I did some self-survey, like about different values of mine or talents, it appeared that aesthetically I'm really, really, really low, like retarded. Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, I've been reading since I was, I don't know, 8, and before the fall of the communists, we had just 2 channels in the TV, and they weren't so great. So I read a lot, like 2, 3 books a day. And actually, the one uh, area of artistry I can appreciate and understand is the written word. So I would say that's what really allowed me to write and be creative in that realm. I still cannot draw at all, and even my graphical concept, I will tell someone, do this, this, and this, and in the end, someone else is doing it. Someone who is, uh, good at it, and it's still awful because, like, I just don't like this period. But in case of words, and the great thing about writing nonfiction is that it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just need to be like I am conveying some concepts, teaching, or giving examples from my life or other stories. So I would say the stories speak for themselves. The facts speak for themselves. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just needs to happen. So actually, I approach writing very, professionally. Writing every day. Sit down, write for half an hour, depending on whatever the goal is. And also the practice, really, when it comes to even creative process, or maybe not even, but even more for creative processes. James Clear has an excellent article about this on his blog. That in some photography school they did the experiment. Half of the class was working on one perfect photo for the whole semester. The other part of the class, they were doing every week a different assignment. And of course, the other parts of the class, those who were working consistently and doing something new every week, their work was so much better than the work of those who try to chisel one thing forever. Because practice will give you, even physically, will create the neural paths in your brain. Then myelin will encompass those neural paths, and you will be even more proficient in that. But also, like in writing, I have over 1,000 answers on Quora.com, and so a huge catalog of work. And I can tell that, okay, only maybe every 10 or so of those answers catapulted and got a lot of eyeballs and comments and interactions and so on. And 9 of them, they didn't. Some of them were just average, and some of them were not good at all. So if you have the volume of work, then something can work. And also with practice, you are getting the volume, and something will for sure work. Yeah, so that's my experience.
Amazing. Okay. So, my question then to you is, and I will share your links and things that you've shared with me on the comments of once this podcast airs. So that will be live for anyone to have a look at and go to your, relevant social media and links. But when when did you learn how to speak English, and why did you choose to publish in English?
Okay, the second question is so much easier to answer because I was
Okay.
scared of the opinion of people around me. I was scared of that my employer will find that I'm starting something on the site, and it was so much easier to hide it in the English online world. And also, right now, I can see, looking at the publishing landscape in Poland, that it was a good answer because we are still behind when it comes to the self-publishing revolution. It's hard to be an author in Poland, and the readership is so much lower, and the interest in personal development is so much lower as well. So it was a good idea to write in English, and yeah, because the market is so much bigger, the tools are there, and they were 10 years ago. Like I could get on Amazon, create an account, upload a manuscript written in Word, and the cover, and bam, I had the book. My English, it was common in Poland to teach English, so I started in the primary school when I was 13. Then in the secondary school when I was 15, we like started from scratch again because not everybody had English in our class, so we started from basics. So that was, I got basics there, but my English wasn't really that useful for me in the everyday situations in 90s, and nope, not really. But my parents started the multi-level marketing business, Amway, and there were a lot of training materials in English with simultaneous translations, and I listened to them a lot, and my listening of English, like that was the best skill I had, because with time I could listen to English tapes and understand what they are saying. Speaking wasn't that great. Then I started my career in IT, and English is necessary in IT. All the documentation is practically in English, or had been 10 years. Oh, well, I started my IT career almost 20 years ago. So,
Wow.
yeah, so
Was
almost
there
everything.
IT 20 years ago? Oh no, there was. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. When did I do my first computer course? And I think it was like in 1994 or 5 or something like that. You know, in WordPerfect 5 or something, I think it was called. Yeah. Ancient.
And one of my friends encouraged me to start read fiction books in English, and that was another like leveling up my English skills, because I remember the first books I read with a dictionary, because I just didn't understand a single word, and then this whole sentence wasn't that easy to understand. But it was so much work that I finally started to ignore those words and learn them from the context. So that was
No.
good teaching, especially that I read constantly. So in that period of time, I read, I think, 50 to 200 books in English, fiction books. Yeah.
Wow.
And then when I started writing, yeah, I had been in IT for 8 years. I read in English. I started also to consume a massive amount of personal development content, videos, podcasts, audio programs. But I can say that just writing was another moment when my English skills upped, because if you write every day, again, it's a biological nature of human being. Whatever you do consistently, you are getting better at it. And then I joined a few masterminds in English, and
Okay.
I've been using 4 years now my English. Maybe not so massive, but like a couple of hours every week. And recently, in the last few years, it's been like, I would say, 20 to 30% of my activities are in English. I have a team, and I talk with them in English. They are from Philippines, from Mexico. Podcast interviews, coaching sessions, and those masterminds. So yeah, now I can say English is really my second language.
It's very good. You're very easy to understand. You're very easy to understand, and you speak with I call that quiet confidence. Like you're
Yeah,
not a rah
I
rah
can
man.
I
Yeah.
can hear myself that I'm making grammar mistakes, but I don't care about this. I just continue just to convey my point.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Of course. I mean, I think it's amazing. Look. I think it's amazing because I know what it takes. I mean, the way I learned how to speak English, we came out here, I was 17 years old. I didn't go to school. I had to go to work to help the family survive and have some money. So the way I learned was that my dad would buy the newspaper every day and would watch the news, and I would because I'm visual, I would sit in front of the TV as he was watching the news, and I would try and like hear words and then find them in the newspaper, highlight them in the newspaper, because my brain, if I recognize a word and I highlight, then my brain takes a photo and then I remember. That's how I learned to speak English.
Amazing.
I mean, I knew I was visual, so I knew that was going to be because I got through the whole school system, in Yugoslavia in that way, because I played sport. I was never at school. I was always traveling. So I learned how to, quickly learn. I just read something, highlight, and my brain remembers. So I never spent a lot of time studying. So I knew that if I could find the words, if I could recognize them and then find them written down, then I would remember. So that's how I learned how to speak English. Anyway, so I know what I'm saying is I know how challenging it can be. So bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see. If you don't mind, we're going to circle back to your books, but if you don't mind, I just want to take a step, do a cha-cha and take a step left and the right a little bit. I want to ask you about, you mention, or you give the impression that you have this really beautiful flow, like a structured flow in your days, where you do a little bit of whatever's going on, you do a little bit of everything, creating healthy habits, trusting that, those things will then come together in this really beautiful picture, whatever it is, whatever the objective is. My question to you is, with all these different habits that you're achieving, whether they're personal development or whether they're business related, or authorship related, what are your personal self-care habits? How do you stay in your center, like physically? How do you stay, true to yourself? Talk to us about that a little bit.
I have plenty of habits in that realm, and most of them are just borrowed from successful people. I heard them speaking about those habits or recommending those habits, and so then I adopted them. Because when I was terrible at many things 10 years ago, and self-care was included in that bunch. So, like, I have a morning ritual, and I spend quite a lot of time on like rewiring my mindset, because I still my mindset is, and my programming is still quite stinky from the decades of
Yeah.
like just indulging in bad mental habits, and even this low self-esteem and negative self-talk and self-beating and so on and so on. So I'm still recovering from that. So my
Sorry,
habits
can I
that,
just
yeah.
interrupt for a minute? So when you say that you practice, how did you call it? You call it mindfulness strategies or whatever?
Yeah, so let's give you just like a dozen examples, because this is what
Okay.
I do.
Yeah,
I
please.
I repeat my personal mission statement every day. I read several books which shaped my personal philosophy, like just a fragment, a paragraph or sentence or a page every day. I have a list of quotes which also shaped my personal philosophy, which I found impactful. So I have a file and I just scroll through it and read a few, not few, several or dozen random quotes from that file. I have a vision board I look at every morning, which is based on my personal mission statement. I meditate, which, like, I think 8 years ago, I was like, it's just crazy thing to do. But everybody recommended to me. For a month, I was a coach of Tony Stubblebin from Coach.me. He's now, or rather, he was. I wonder if he still is under Elon Musk, CEO of Twitter. Oh no, he's CEO of Medium. I mistaken Medium with Twitter. So he's CEO of Medium right now, and he recommended me meditation. So I started back then and kept doing it for years. I have a book, Power Up Your Self-Talk, and a lot of habits I recommend there are just mindfulness habits, being in silence, walks in the nature, for example. Like those things are building your self-awareness, so they will you can notice what's really going through your mind, and only when you can notice it you can do something about this. Otherwise it just triggers some autopilot reaction in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I consider my spiritual activities also a part of my self-care, prayer and Bible study and reading those books written by saints. Yeah, so that's about like the mindset and spirituality part. But I also created numerous habits around my physical self-care, what I eat, how I move, even such small things like this is really automatic for me now. Whenever I climb stairs, I run really, not just walk up. And it's just a minuscule effort, but I believe it compounds, especially if you do it every single time. And I do because it's an automatic habit.
Interesting. Okay. And so these are what you're talking about. So when you say habit, most of the things that you're talking about are daily habits?
Yes.
Wow.
Daily habits are so much easier to develop and maintain than even like every second day or even 6 days a week, because then there is disruption of the pattern and your brain is a bit confused what's going on. Because, well, for sure, subconscious doesn't understand the concept of calendar.
No, whether it's Gregorian or otherwise, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So why every seventh time I'm not doing this? So it's confusing. So it's so much easier to develop a habit if you do it every day, and even easier if you do it multiple times a day. It's actually a great exercise if you want to develop a good habit, to break it down to such a small level that you can do it dozen times a day. And so then you can develop this habit in like 10 days or 20, and then you can start doing it not dozen times but five, not at such a small scale but twice as much, not a minute by 2 minutes, for example. Yeah, so this is how our brain operates. Noticing those patterns and then saving them in the brain forever.
Yeah, the brain is a little bit like the World Wide Web, isn't it? But so is the universe. It's all interconnected and with many multi dimensions and layers and pathways and it's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So how all these changes, I mean, I presume that it's now, it's a really positive, wonderful way that you live and interact in your family. But how was it throughout, if you don't mind me asking, because it's a more deeper kind of intimate question, how was the transformation for you? I mean, it would take a really special, relationship to to maybe support such a massive transformation.
So no, we are not booking rainbows, and I would say like the most change is still in me and how I perceive my relationships, because I cannot change other people other by example, and I wish my wife or kids did different things, invested more in their personal development and so on, but they don't. And they are still open to the influence of everyone around and our crazy interconnected world, social media, and so on. And it was very, very hard at the beginning. It's because definitely my wife didn't understand what the heck I'm doing. And she didn't believe in me, and rightfully so, because she had numerous examples from the past that I failed.
Right.
So why should she? And that was my attitude back then, because I was like, yes, of course, she cannot support me because it's another pipe dream, but I will just prove her she's wrong. And I knew deeply inside myself that I'm on the right path or better path than I had been in the corporate world and not doing anything with my personal development. Actually, we had a clash when I published my first two books. She was like, stop doing it. It was like almost a year into my transformation. Find a better job instead of dabbling with this. It's BS and it's not gonna work. And so, yeah, it was hard. It was hard. And still, I have funny interactions. My godmother, she's retired. I quit my day job in August 2022, and we met, and she was like, what will you do right now without a job? Yeah, I'm busy. Come on, I have a lot to do.
Yeah. I have to say that I got a lot of that as well. When are you going to go and get a proper job? When are you going to go and get a proper job? Because being self-employed in order to give me some freedom to look after my son was not having a job. That wasn't a job enough. Yeah. But yeah, so I understand. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Regardless of whether it's Poland or Australia, doesn't matter. Anyway, so thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Let's circle back to the present moment, and I want to ask you about two things, and then we'll finish up because we already, oh my god, an hour. That's crazy. So the first thing that I want to ask you is your book distribution, not distribution. What did you call it? I didn't write it down properly. So you book sales, or what is it that you do?
Book advertising.
Advertising, right? About the book advertising, and then what is the last book that you published?
Okay, so my book advertising business, we run ads for other authors on Amazon, and till last year it was just for self-publishers because this is what Amazon allowed. Now everybody, even if you are traditionally published, you can advertise your own books. So we are doing that for authors who are not tech savvy or just don't have time for that, or just, yes, they do have time, but they would rather invest it in something that will give them thousands of dollars per hour. So we are doing this mundane job.
Yeah, so I think you and I will be talking at some stage in the future, because that will be me.
Okay, what was the
Yeah.
second question?
So what was the last book that you published?
The last book. Depending on what we are counting as a book, either my kind of autobiography. Every year after reading The Slight Edge, I wrote a report from what I've done the last year, and I put them together into a book. It's called The Remarkable Power of Consistency. So I published it about 2 years ago, and I need to update it with the two latest reports. And like a few months ago, I published my first book, but translated into Spanish.
Oh, wow,
This
your
personal
first
mission statement book. Yep.
translation.
It's not a first
Oh,
translation, but it's translation of my first book. I have books
wow.
translated into German, Spanish, Chinese,
Right. Oh, okay.
Korean.
Right. Oh, pardon me. Okay. Wow. Amazing. Yeah, so maybe I should have said it right. Okay. Congratulations, nevertheless.
Thank you
What an
very much.
achievement. Yeah. So, are you writing anything now? Are you?
Not a book, but I'm writing regularly, not as regularly as I want. I'm scaling up my business right now, but I have a blog. I from time to time answer questions on Quora, and I create content for my business, for email broadcasts, and so on.
So, what is this? This is the second time you mentioned it. Did you say it was Quora?
Yes,
What is Quora? And
Quora.com is a
how do you spell
platform.
it?
Oh, I cannot spell in English. I can write it in the chat. Okay.
Okay, write it in the chat and I'll.
I missed the class in the primary
Ah,
school about spelling, and I'm like hopeless when it comes to
so
spelling in English.
that's cool. It's no problem at all. Thank you for doing that, because I can see it. So it's Quora.com. So what is Quora.com?
It's a platform where you ask question, any kind of question, and other people on that platform are answering the question. So I
Mm.
would say like there were many attempts on that on the internet, but I think this is the most successful, especially when it comes to volume. Like they have hundreds of millions of users, and having this volume of users, then you have some people who write the answers, because it's normal and common that most people are just looking for answers, reading and gone, or asking more questions. But writing something which has value, it takes time, it takes skills. So not many people are doing that percentage wise. But
Mhm.
overall, like great platform for writers, for people who can write, uh, because like for me it gave me immediate feedback. I could publish something one day, next day I saw the views, comments, because I got the volume. Like I'm getting still on my blog maybe 2,000 visits a month. On Quora I'm getting 2,000 views a day, and I stopped publishing like a year ago. And it's still working.
Wow. Why don't I know about this? Wow. This is literally the first time I think I've heard of it. That's crazy. Okay, thank you, Michal.
You're
I'm glad I
welcome.
asked. Yeah, that's great. I'll have to check it out, because it sounds like it could be um, a good gauge for me as well with regards to what I'm writing about. Cool. Awesome. All right. All right. So I want to now give you the opportunity to say anything that you would like with regards to, any closing statements, or, if you want to mention anything in particular you're working on, or please go ahead and do that.
Success is a few simple disciplines repeated over time, and that's really condensing the reality of the laws of the universe into one sentence. Because if you do something consistently, you will get better at it. It's a biological wiring we human beings have. So if you want to change your life, you need to start adopt a way of small daily habits, and that's the most reliable way, proven by science, that you can change your life for good and for better. And you can find me anywhere on the internet. It's so great to be a Polish guy in the English speaking space. You just type my name and then add books or blog or anything else, and you find me at the top of the results. Easy peasy.
Oh, that's amazing. That's good SEO. Well done. Amazing. Okay, so I want to say thank you for making the time to speak to us today. I really appreciate you, the work that you do, your authenticity, your courage, your strength, your expertise. I think it's really extraordinary, and I feel honored to have had this time with you. Thank you, Michal.
You're most welcome, Diana, and I thank you for having me on the show. It's always a privilege to be on someone else's show and share whatever I have to share. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a couple of closing words, if you don't mind, just staying with me, Michal, and until we finish recording. Just one moment. Okay, so I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you, the audience. If you're still with us at 1 hour 12, thank you. That was an amazing conversation, really worth the time we took to explore a few concepts and strategies that Michal had to share with us. So as far as I'm concerned, I would like to invite you to go to my website, www.dijana.org, and on there you'll be able to check out the sessions you can have with me, and also the online programs that I have available, which are self-paced, really easy to use, easy to follow, but will help you with your own with some strategies for your own mind, body, emotion, spirit, health, and well-being. And on that note, thank you so much, and see you next time. Bye.